Yeah, so this video discussing my warranty claim with Shimano. Um, as you can see, I got a new 6800 crank from the local bike recyclery. The warranty claim took about 10 weeks from Shimano, beginning to end, but that's mostly because my local REI was confused and didn't send the thing in fast, and then when the new crank came in, they didn't know to call me, so the thing sat on a shelf for a couple weeks. Best news is Shimano gave me $300 for the Stages power meter, so I'm trying to decide if I should buy a 4III non-drive side power meter. But as is right now, I'm just pretty happy to have a bike that I can ride, and the RC6800 may just sit in a box. So here I am down in my parts vault, and see, I got my good stuff down there. Received this from Shimano, and figured I'd weigh it. Here we go, took it out of the box, and it's kind of nice looking. Turns out I ended up getting another used 6800 at the bike recyclery, so don't really have a use for this, and I figured I'd sell it on, but I guess they're only going for $150. So it's these are special rings that are 11 speed spaced rings, but the Spider is 12 speed, so maybe in the distant future I'll upgrade to 12 speed. I just get some 12 speed rings for it, but given how rings are the wear part, seems pretty unlikely. I should probably just sell it on. Yeah, and the way the warranty went, I took it to REI and dropped my bike off, and they said they'd evaluate it and send it in and I'd get a new one. And then 10 days later I called, and the bike was still there with the crank still on it, and I hadn't gotten to it yet without my bike. So I went and got my bike, took the crank off myself, and left the crank with them. And then 3 weeks later I called them, and they still had the crank. There'd been some confusion in the computer about the order status, and so then 2 more weeks, and they said, oh, they haven't heard back from Shimano. So I called Shimano on Monday, and they're like, what are you talking about? We mailed that back a week and a half ago. So I called REI and said, hey, Shimano says they sent it. And they said, oh, it's on a shelf here. Okay. Now the best news about the whole thing is that I sent in my 6800 crank with the rings and a Stages power meter. And they let me keep the 6800 rings, which is cool. And they gave me $300 for the Stages non-drive side power meter. So, and in the meanwhile, once I got my bike and took the crank off, I went to the local recyclery, and they had a 6800 crank with reasonable rings for 25 bucks. So I just put that on, and I think I'm happy with it till it breaks. But overall, I mean, pretty amazing of Shimano to even do this. I'm really impressed. So this is a 175 length with 5034 rings, and you can see the weight is 512.17 for the drive side. So here's the non-drive side, 175 millimeter FC08, and it's 195.3. So that's like, for the crank set in 175, it's like 707 grams, which I think is above what it's supposed to be.